This video is inspired by all of the negative attention these baby Pokemon seem to get. There aren't riots in the streets or anything, but I've witnessed a lot of negativity being thrown at these Pokemon over the years, whether that be online or with my friends. So I decided to make this video going through each and every baby Pokemon. Not only that, but I'll also try to figure out some answers to the following questions. What are baby Pokemon? Along with my thoughts on each one. What's the point of baby Pokemon? And why do some people hate baby Pokemon? I'll then end the video with my top 5 favorite and 5 least favorite baby Pokemon. To be honest, there isn't much of a point for this video's existence. I just thought it'd be fun to go through each one and give you my opinion on them. And feel free to give your opinion on each baby Pokemon in the comments below. Let's start with the question, what are baby Pokemon? I don't know how common of a misconception this is, but I've known quite a few people over the years who either don't know what a baby Pokemon is, or think that baby Pokemon are the first stage of an evolutionary line. According to Bulbapedia, premiering in Generation 2, baby Pokemon are Pokemon at the lowest stage of an evolutionary line that cannot themselves breed. Baby Pokemon must meet the following criteria. They must be obtainable by breeding, must be the lowest form in a family chain, must belong to the undiscovered egg group, which is the egg group full of Pokemon like legendaries and cosplay PICHU for some reason. So reading that makes me think there really isn't much of a reason for a baby Pokemon to exist. Like, the only difference from a Pokemon like PICHU and a normal first stage like TYROGUE is that PICHU is in the undiscovered egg group. That's it. So what the hell is the point in calling them baby Pokemon? Well, the reason might be because Generation 2 introduced the concept of breeding, so Game Freak thought it would be cool to give some fan favorites and some random Pokemon a baby form. Let's start with the most iconic, or second most iconic, baby Pokemon, PICHU. PICHU is the pre-evolution of Pikachu, who is a pure electric type that evolves in Pikachu through high friendship. PICHU has gotten the most exposure out of all of the baby Pokemon, from appearing in Melee, being a trusted companion in Pokemon Ranger Guardian signs, having a handful of in-game events and distributions, and also having a couple anime specials. PICHU might just be the most recognizable baby Pokemon, aside from maybe one other that we will get to. The second baby Pokemon, National Dex Order, is CLEFFA. CLEFFA is the pre-evolution of Clefairy and was a pure normal type, but is now a fairy type and has been since Gen 6. CLEFFA evolves into Clefairy as a result of high friendship. And honestly, the only thing CLEFFA has going for it is the fact that it isn't nearly as hideous as Clefairy, and blech. Other than that, it's pretty forgettable. Third on the list of baby Pokemon is the abomination known as IGGLYBUFF. Alright, so it isn't that terrible, but just look at its blood red eyes. Anyways, IGGLYBUFF, which is a really shitty name, is similar to CLEFFA in that it gained the fairy typing and that it evolves through high friendship. Other than that, it's just a really ugly baby Jigglypuff. And now for the first baby Pokemon ever shown to the public, TOGEPI. Yeah, Misty actually had a TOGEPI in the Gen 1 anime, making it the first ever baby Pokemon ever revealed. TOGEPI is also a Pokemon that switched from a normal type to a fairy type that also evolves through high friendship. But TOGEPI has a couple other neat facts about it, like how it is one of the 2 baby Pokemon that premiered alongside its evolution. It's also a Pokemon that is predominantly male. I'm not saying this Pokemon should be predominantly female, I just didn't know it's more likely to be male until making this video. It also just looks like a Pokemon egg, but I'm sure a lot of you know that by now. Next up is TYROGUE. Now, I actually did a video on TYROGUE in my Forgotten Pokemon series, so if you want a more in-depth look at him and Hitmontop, then check that video out. For the people who either already saw that video or don't give a shit, I'll give a brief summary. TYROGUE is the pre-evolution of Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, and Hitmontop. It'll evolve into Hitmonchan if its defense is higher than its attack, Hitmonlee if its attack is higher than its defense, and Hitmontop if its attack and defense stat are the exact same. TYROGUE's stats are all equal, it learns no moves upon level up, and is pretty forgettable. Hence why I made a Forgotten Pokemon video about him. He also looks kind of dumb. Moving on. Next is SMOOCHUM, who looks about 80 times better than its evolution Jynx. SMOOCHUM is the first baby Pokemon covered so far that doesn't evolve through happiness. It'll evolve into Jynx at level 30, which is pretty late for a baby Pokemon to evolve, but at least you don't have to worry about that friendship shit. And is it just me, or does SMOOCHUM look like a penguin? I know it's supposed to be based on a human baby, but it just looks like a penguin to me. It is ice type, so maybe it's a hybrid between a baby and a penguin? I don't know. Next is ELEKID, admittedly one of the cooler looking baby Pokemon. Like SMOOCHUM, ELEKID evolves into its second stage, Electabuzz in this case, at level 30. Now moving from a pretty cool baby Pokemon to a pretty bad looking one. I don't think MAGBY is as bad as its evolution Magmar, but it still looks pretty ugly. More info on why I dislike Magmar will be in the future. Nevertheless, MAGBY also evolves into its second stage at level 30. And I forgot to mention this about ELEKID and SMOOCHUM, but all three of these baby Pokemon learn a good variety of moves. And ELEKID and MAGBY learn moves at the same levels, with some of them being very similar. Now, if Game Freak would have ended it there, it would have been fine. These baby Pokemon were kind of unnecessary, but it was Game Freak's way of having you try breeding since you could only obtain these Pokemon by breeding. So if you wanted to complete the Pokedex in Generation 2, you had to breed. Then Generation 3 came along and introduced two new baby Pokemon because, why not? AZURILL is the first of the two Gen 3 baby Pokemon, and boy does it have some interesting stuff about it. But first, AZURILL evolves into Marill upon high friendship because of course it does. And like with many other baby Pokemon before it, AZURILL gained the Fairy typing in Gen 6. But what's weird is that the Fairy edition made it Normal Fairy. Why isn't it Water Fairy like its evolution Marill and Azumarill? What about AZURILL says Normal type? But that isn't even close to the oddest thing about it. For some reason, AZURILL's gender ratio doesn't match the evolution of Marill. So female AZURILL has a 33% chance of evolving into a male Marill. Bulbapedia says this depends on AZURILL's personality value, so I guess that explains it. This was changed in Gen 6, so AZURILL retains its gender upon evolving, even though the gender ratios are still different. AZURILL also has the lowest base stat total out of all of the baby Pokemon, so that really sucks. The other baby Pokemon introduced in Gen 3 is WYNAUT. I can kind of understand Marill getting a baby since it has a lot in common with Pikachu, and since Pikachu got PICHU, Game Freak decided to give Marill AZURILL. But giving Wobbuffet a baby form? That's pretty strange. WYNAUT evolves into Wobbuffet at level 15. It's a pure psychic type, and is the only baby Pokemon I've covered so far that can be encountered in the wild in its debut game. That area is the Mirage Island, but you might as well just breed for him because the Mirage Island is incredibly rare. One of the reasons why I think WYNAUT was created is because it's a play on the phrase, why not? Who would have guessed? But WYNAUT's Japanese name is similar to the phrase, really, or is that so? It is played off by its evolution Wobbuffet, whose Japanese name pretty much means that's the way it is. When together they have the conversation of really followed by that's the way it is. So like with the Gen 2 babies, you just breed these guys, right? Well, not quite. Not only do you have to breed, you also have to find the correct incense to breed with. There were two incenses introduced in Gen 3 for the two baby Pokemon. I'm assuming they did this because it'd be weird if you bred a Marill in Generation 2 and didn't get AZURILL. So the incense helps breeding for these baby Pokemon make sense in the realm of the Pokemon world. But it also makes the process a bit more tedious for the average Pokemon fan trying to complete the Pokedex. The last generation to add baby Pokemon, at least during the recording of this video, is Generation 4. And good fuck are there a lot of them. Unlike Gen 3 though, Gen 4 getting a batch of baby Pokemon actually makes some sense. Generation 4 added a whole shit ton of evolutions to old Pokemon, so giving a ton of Pokemon babies doesn't feel as random. The first Gen 4 baby Pokemon introduced is BUDEW, who evolves into Roselia with high friendship during the day. Mixing it up on us, I see. One weird thing about Roselia is that it got both a pre-evolution and a final evolution in the same generation. Roserade is pretty sweet and Roselia definitely needed it, but BUDEW? Did Roselia really need a baby as well as a new final stage? Even as a kid I thought this was pretty weird. And I actually used to hate BUDEW as well, and that's mainly because of its cry. It just sounds like it's either dying or taking a shit. Next up is the strangest baby Pokemon ever. Not in terms of design, but as in why does this thing exist? Did Chimecho really need an evolution of any kind? CHINGLING is a pure psychic type that will evolve into Chimecho with high friendship at night. Which makes me feel like it's supposed to be a counterpart to BUDEW. Next is BONSLY, who is a pure rock type that evolves into Sudowoodo. To evolve it, BUDEW must learn the move Mimic. Pretty odd, but oh well. I guess it's because it needs to know how to mimic a tree to be able to evolve into Sudowoodo. Whatever. BONSLY seemed to get a lot of attention when Gen 4 was released, but that attention has since died down. BONSLY shows up as a Pokeball item in Brawl, along with being in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, which is a game that came out in Generation 3. Pretty cool. Next is the counterpart to BONSLY, and yes, this is indeed a counterpart, MIME Jr. MIME Jr. is a pure psychic type that will evolve into Mr. Mime if it knows the move Mimic. See? Counterparts. Nothing else to really say about MIME Jr. I mean, I guess it looks cute, but that's about it. It is much better than Mr. Mime, I'll give it that too, but nothing else really stands out about MIME Jr. Next is HAPPINY, who will evolve into Chansey if it levels up holding an Oval Stone during the daytime. Gee, that was a mouthful. They made its evolution like this because Chansey already evolves into Blissey through High Friendship, and it'd be kinda weird if HAPPINY evolved into Chansey with High Friendship, and then evolved again because it still has High Friendship. One prediction I have is that since HAPPINY was designed by Emi Yoshida, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, and that it was the only Pokemon designed by her, I wonder if she just drew this Pokemon in her spare time or something, and the game developers thought, let's just add it in. I could be completely wrong, and I probably am, but I don't know. Anyways, next is MUNCHLAX. MUNCHLAX is the baby form of Snorlax that evolves through High Friendship. What a surprise. MUNCHLAX was also a Pokemon's first seen in XD Gale of Darkness, but it also appeared in the Pokemon anime. Since I started playing the games during 4th generation, I used to actually think MUNCHLAX was a Gen 3 Pokemon since they had one in the Gen 3 anime. MUNCHLAX also has a stat total of 390, which is the highest base stat total out of all of the baby Pokemon, which also ties it with second stage Pokemon like Weepinbell, Boldore, and Gothorita. And oh yeah, MUNCHLAX also appeared in Brawl. Man, MUNCHLAX sure got a lot of the same special treatment BONSLY got. Next is RIOLU, who I personally think shouldn't be a baby Pokemon. Sure, its stats are pretty weak, and it does indeed look like a baby Lucario, but why does it have to have the baby title attached to it? Pokemon like Skorupi and Baniri look like they could be baby Pokemon, but they're just regular pre-evolutions. And if you haven't guessed, RIOLU is the second baby Pokemon introduced alongside its evolution. The other being TOGEPI if you forgot. RIOLU evolves into Lucario through a High Friendship level, and since Lucario can Mega Evolve, this makes RIOLU the only baby Pokemon that has a Mega Evolution in the family. And the last baby Pokemon ever introduced, up until this point, is MANTYKE. Yes, the pre-evolution of Mantine. For a Pokemon that no one seems to really talk about, Mantine seems to get a lot of love. There's not only the baby form, but also that Mantine minigame in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But yeah, MANTYKE is an oddity for sure. It's a water flying type, that's not the weird thing, and to evolve into Mantine, you must level up your MANTYKE while having a Remoraid in your party. Mantine is often depicted with Remoraid next to it, but to think Remoraid would be a vital part of its evolutionary process. Some other interesting facts about MANTYKE include it being the only baby Pokemon with a 4x weakness, it being the tallest of all the baby Pokemon, it has the highest special defense stat of all the baby Pokemon, and has a really weird face on its back. There is one thing that bugs me about MANTYKE though. Well, it doesn't really have anything to do with MANTYKE in particular, but where's baby Skarmory? Mantine and Skarmory are often portrayed as counterparts, but only Mantine gets the baby Pokemon. It's kind of like the scenario with Dusclops getting an evolution while Bayonet didn't, but still, I think I would have liked a baby Skarmory. And with all these new baby Pokemon, we got even more incenses. Hooray. Thank God these items have use in battle, because if they didn't, they'd be such a waste of space. I'm not going to name all of the incenses, so here's a chart of all of the Generation 4 incenses next to the baby Pokemon who needs it in order to be bred. Notice anything weird? RIOLU doesn't need a particular incense to be bred. Probably because it isn't a pre-evolution to a Pokemon from a previous generation, which begs the question, why is RIOLU a goddamn baby Pokemon? On another note, remember when I said WYNAUT is the first baby Pokemon to be obtainable outside of breeding? Well, Gen 4 seemed to really want to add to that number because WYNAUT and RIOLU are the only baby Pokemon you can't obtain in the wild in the Gen 4 games. I'm actually okay with the Gen 2 and 3 baby Pokemon being obtainable since they are from a previous generation and most players have already gone through the trouble of breeding them. But why are all of the new baby Pokemon so easy to get? I always thought one reason why baby Pokemon exist was to have every trainer who ever wanted to complete the Pokédex to try breeding, since you can only obtain these Pokemon by breeding. But now that all of these baby Pokemon are just as obtainable as any other first stage Pokemon, what's the point of even calling these guys babies? I guess this kind of leads into my question of what's the point of baby Pokemon? And since it isn't to promote breeding anymore, then what are they for? Particularly the Gen 3 and 4 babies. Marketing? Is there even a point to these Pokemon? Not really. But at least having them promote some world building? In the real world, there are obviously baby animals that are vulnerable and weak, but will eventually grow into something strong or beautiful. Baby Pokemon are just like that. But most first stage Pokemon are also like that, and they aren't classified as baby Pokemon. But have you ever noticed that these baby Pokemon are the only pre-evolutions introduced a generation after their evolutions? I think the only reason why this baby Pokemon term still exists is because what would be the point of making a pre-evolution to a Pokemon from another generation? Making a final evolution makes sense, but a pre-evolution? So the term baby Pokemon is given to these Pokemon so it gives the game devs a reason to make a pre-evolution. So the answer is there's no point to baby Pokemon, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't exist, so why do I hear people hating on them? The reason why I wanted to talk about baby Pokemon is because I've heard a lot of people express their disdain for them. Whether that be because they fill up space, are so incredibly weak, or that they think the distinction of baby Pokemon is unnecessary. Well, there's the answer to the question. I actually do agree with these arguments, but that doesn't make me hate any of them really. They're cute, yeah, that's all I got. But I don't mind their existence, it's just the fact that they are called baby Pokemon. I know why the game devs do it, but giving them the distinction of baby Pokemon just makes them tedious to breed for. That's it, that's all it does. And while I did ramble about how I thought it was a weird choice to make the babies wild encounters, I actually think it's kind of a good thing. It completely defeats the initial purpose of baby Pokemon, but most of them can be found at the beginning of the game. And since you can find them early, that leads to more potential teammates early on in a playthrough. Like you can find ELEKID, MAGBY, RIOLU, and AZURILL before the second gym in Black 2 and White 2, and catching one of them can lead to a variety of pretty good Pokemon. Even as babies, it's reliable to have an electric type, fire type, water type, and or fighting type at such an early stage in a playthrough. Let's end this video with my top 5 favorite and top 5 least favorite baby Pokemon. I will not be going in depth with each choice because 1, there isn't much for me to say, and 2, this video is already too long as is. I'll start with the best. Number 5. This was a toss-up between MUNCHLAX and RIOLU, and while RIOLU is undoubtedly the coolest looking baby Pokemon, I decided to go with MUNCHLAX, thanks in large part to its appearance in the anime. MUNCHLAX is also one of the better baby Pokemon in general due to its decent stats and large move pool. Number 4. I'd say that HAPPINY is overall the cutest of all of the baby Pokemon. I've always thought Chansey and Blissey were pretty adorable, so logic dictates that I'd find HAPPINY adorable as well. Number 3. WYNAUT is such a strange looking baby Pokemon, but that's kind of why I like it. I also like how it looks so happy all the time. They even made its tail cute, which is weird. One other thing I like about WYNAUT is its cry. I have no clue why, I just really do. Number 2. The existence of CHINGLING is kind of hard to fathom. Like, who really gave a shit about Chimecho? Let me change that. Who gives a shit about Chimecho? This thing is hardly talked about, yet it has a baby form. A very weird yet kind of cute looking baby form. One thing you should know about me is that I really like weird Pokemon. Hell, I like odd things in general, and CHINGLING is no exception. Number 1. I really like sea life. I really like Mantine. Thus, I really like MANTYKE. The worst baby Pokemon. Number 5. I don't think AZURILL is that bad, but I needed a number 5, so I decided to pick it because it's the weakest baby Pokemon and has a typing that makes absolutely no sense. Number 4. While I definitely don't dislike BUDEW as much as I used to, I still do think it looks pretty dumb, especially in comparison to its evolutions. Number 3. Why does IGGLYBUFF have that swirl on its head? Why does its hair look like a chode? Why are its eyes bloodshot red? I don't know, IGGLYBUFF just doesn't do it for me. It does indeed look like a baby Jigglypuff, but I guess IGGLYBUFF is the equivalent of baby pandas in the real world. Number 2. TYROGUE just looks dumb. Maybe it's the head or something, I don't know. TYROGUE just doesn't look good. Number 1. I think the reason why I dislike MAGBY so much is its guilt by association with Magmar. I really don't like Magmar's design. The color scheme is a mess. I know it's supposed to look like magma, but that still doesn't make it look good. The body structure of it is absolutely all over the place. I hate everything about its head. It just isn't the most pleasing Pokemon to look at. I'm honestly considering it and a similar Pokemon for my top 10 least favorite Pokemon video, so I won't go on anymore about Magmar. MAGBY at least looks kind of cute in some of its sprites, but as of late they've enlarged the stuff on its head that I guess is supposed to be its hair, and it just does not look appealing. Thank you all for watching my very long video on baby Pokemon. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this. I also have a Twitter and a Twitch and an Instagram and stuff like that if you want to follow me on those. Links will be in the description below. But yeah, that's it. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you next time.